While in Newport, Rhode Island, we had the opportunity to visit the world-famous Marble House. Built in 1892, this mansion earned its name from the 500,000 cubic feet of marble that was used to complete it. While the house is sensational, so is the story behind it. Marble House also earned a place in history as a famous venue for rallies and fundraisers to support the movement that led to women in America gaining the right to vote. And that's because the woman who owned Marble House, Alva Vanderbilt, was a leading advocate for women and took a bold stance for women's rights. In an age when women did not have equal rights as men, Alva Vanderbilt defied the norms of her time and was a force to be reckoned with. She owned Marble House free and clear, as well as another grand Newport mansion on the very same street, and she got them both through marriage. Her first husband, William Vanderbilt, gifted Marble House to her at her 39th birthday party. But 3 years later, she scandalized high society by divorcing William Vanderbilt on the grounds of adultery. Divorce was rare at that time because wives from the elite class were supposed to tolerate their husbands' affairs. But William Vanderbilt was reportedly in Paris flaunting his indiscretions publicly, and Alva wasn't the type to put up with anything like that. As the divorce played out in the public eye, it definitely looked like Alva was on top. She had the deed to Marble House. She kept custody of their 3 children. And she walked away with millions. But sadly, she lost her highly cherished social standing and was shunned by other women in high society. That's when her daughter, the young and beautiful Consuelo, became both an instrument and a victim of Alva's most triumphant social comeback. With Consuela, Alva would convert wealth and beauty into an aristocratic title by forcing Consuela into a loveless marriage with the Duke of Marlborough. With her social status repaired, enterprising Alva then moved about 200 yards down the road and married one of her ex-husband's friends, a gentleman named Oliver Hazard Perry Belmont. He had a more modest mansion called Belcourt Castle, and on their wedding night he deeded Belcourt Castle to Alva. So everyone was convinced that Alva was doing something right, whatever the definition of that might be. With the deeds to 2 of Newport's most opulent estates on the same street, Alva hosted parties of epic proportions. She would start the party at one mansion, and everyone either walked or took a coach down to the other mansion, and the parties could last a couple of days at a time, moving between the 2 mansions. Meanwhile, Consuelo spent 20 unhappy years in her marriage with the Duke, a marriage scandalized by rumors that the Duke only married Consuelo for a dowry of $5 million and that Alva had sold her child for a title. But after turning the high society social scene upside down, Alva walked away from it all in 1908 after her second husband died suddenly. She threw herself into the women's suffrage movement, establishing the National Women's Party, which she served as president until her death at the age of 80 in 1933. Her casket was famously carried by female pallbearers at her funeral at St. Thomas Episcopal Church in New York. William and Alva Vanderbilt wanted to build the finest summer house money could buy when they commissioned famed architect Richard Morris Hunt to build Marble House regardless of cost. The result was a classical masterpiece that set the standard for similar mansions that were built during the American Renaissance. Everything in Marble House is done on a grand scale. The ornate ballroom, the painted ceilings, and an elaborate bronze grille at the front entrance that weighs more than 10 tons. The sculptural work and many of the furnishings in the house was custom-made for the Marble House, predominantly Louis XIV and Louis XV style pieces, in keeping with the tastes of both the architect and the Vanderbilts. Marble is everywhere in the house. The interior is a vast expanse of marble, punctuated by lush ornamentation on the walls and ceilings. William Vanderbilt only spent 2 summers at Marble House, since he and Alva were divorced in March 1895. From then on, William Vanderbilt spent most of his time on his yacht, or in New York. After remarrying in 1903, William Vanderbilt moved to Paris, where he died in 1920. Ironically, by then, Alva had become a leading figure in the women's rights movement, even though she failed to respect her own daughter's right to choose her path in life. Consuelo was in love with someone else at the time Alva forced her into a royal marriage for her own social ambitions. Alva Vanderbilt sold Marble House shortly before her death. It was purchased by Frederick Prince of Boston, and it stayed in the Prince family until 1963. Then it was purchased by the Preservation Society of Newport County, which still owns it today and keeps it open for the public. As fate would have it, the money the Preservation Society used for the purchase of Marble House came from Harold Vanderbilt, the youngest of William and Alva Vanderbilt's 3 children. Marble House was a gift from William Vanderbilt, but it became Alva's canvas for her bold ideas and aspirations. She defied social norms in an era when women were taken advantage of. She threw her considerable wealth and influence behind the suffrage movement and became a driving force in the fight for women's right to vote. She founded the National Women's Party and organized the first picket ever outside the White House. Alva Vanderbilt Belmont remained president of the NWP until her death. Marble House is not only an architectural treasure, but also a monument to the remarkable life and enduring influence of a fascinating woman from the Gilded Age who left her mark on American history.